Hello students, in previous lecture we have started the topic that is chapter number 4, chemical thermodynamics. I have already discussed about the basic concepts which is related with the chemical thermodynamics, and in this online video today we are going to study about the next concept, that is of maximum work done and derivation for maximum work done. But I am going to repeating those all concepts which we have already studied in offline lectures. Then see here, remind all those things which is related with the chemical thermodynamics, that is system. All of you have studied about the system. System, it is a part of universe which is under chemical thermodynamic study, that is called as system. Then surrounding, the part of universe except system is called as surrounding. All of you studied about the process. Process is nothing but it is a path of system through which it can convert from one state to another state. That path is called as process. And all of you studied about the different types of processes. There are different types of process. That is first isothermal process. Isothermal process. All of you studied about that. Isothermal, iso means same, thermal means heat, energy, and here it is a system in which heat energy, that means here that exchange of heat takes place with system to surrounding, so such that the temperature of the system remains constant because of exchange of heat takes place from system to surrounding and surrounding to system. Therefore here temperature of the system remains constant, and therefore here delta T is 0, and whenever delta T of the system is 0, then delta U should be 0. Delta U, that is the change in internal energy of the system. Whenever delta T is 0, there is always change in internal energy is also 0. Then second one process, that is adiabatic process. Adiabatic process, it is a process in which no any exchange of heat takes place between surrounding and system. That means no exchange, no transfer of heat energy from system to surrounding and surrounding to system. That means Q is equals to 0. That is the adiabatic process. Then third one, that is isochoric process. Isochoric process, it is a process in which volume of the system, see here, volume remains constant. That means here delta V is 0. And the last one, that is isobaric process. Isobaric process, in which pressure of the system, it remains constant, and therefore delta P is 0. That means change in pressure that is takes place, it is 0. Then one more type of process, classification of process, all of you studied about that, that is reversible process. Reversible process and irreversible process. Irreversible process. See here, all of you studied about that. What is reversible process? It is a process in which the difference between driving force and opposing force, all of you studied about that. Opposing force, that is external force, all of you studied about those two types of force. See here, if the few molecules of gas enclosed in a cylinder, and that cylinder is fitted with weightless and frictionless piston, and that piston is movable, and that piston moves upward or downward, which is a weightless and frictionless. And here the driving force which takes place by system on the surrounding. See here, that is the part of system in which gas molecules are enclosed in it. Therefore, here the pressure which is given by the system is called as driving force. That is pressure given by the system, on the surrounding, and that is the driving force. That is known as driving force. And here the force which takes place on the system by the surrounding, that is PEX, and here PEX is a opposing force, or it is a external force which is given by the surrounding, on the system, and driving force which is pressure given by the system on surrounding. And here, see here, there is a pressure given by the system, that is P, and here pressure given on the system, that is PEX. Then there is difference between P and PEX. When that difference between driving force and opposing force is infinitesimal amount, that means if P is greater than PEX, then P minus PEX is dP, that is difference between those two forces is very smaller, that is infinitesimal amount, isn't it? And here when P is greater, that is driving force is greater than external force, then here expansion takes place. That means here piston moves upward slowly when P is greater than PEX, that is driving force is greater than opposing force. And here if P is smaller, that is driving force is smaller than PEX, and here the difference between those two, that is PEX minus P, that is also very smaller, that is infinitesimal amount, then here the reversible process takes place in the system. When difference between driving force and opposing force is very small, that is infinitesimal amount, then here the process takes place in the system is reversible process. And here work done takes place in this process, in reversible process, that is maximum. See here, driving force, if it is greater than external pressure. Then here work done takes place by the system, that is maximum work done, and piston moves slowly and expansion takes place here, and piston moves upward direction, and work done takes place by the system. Here work done takes place by the system, and if here PEX, that is driving force, here PEX, that is opposing force, is greater than driving force with infinitesimal amount, then here piston moves downward slowly, and here also work done takes place is also maximum, but here work done takes place, here work done takes place on the system, but if here the difference in opposing force and driving force is greater or considerable, that means here if there are also two conditions, if P, that is driving force, is greater than PEX and P minus PEX is delta P, that is difference in the driving force and opposing force is greater, then here the process takes place is irreversible process, and here if P is greater than PX, that is driving force is greater than external force, then process takes place in the system by expansion, and here also PV type of work done takes place by the system, and here expansion takes place and process takes place in this system, that is irreversible process, and if here P is smaller than PEX and here difference in the opposing force and driving force is also greater, but here driving force is smaller than external pressure or opposing force, then here process takes place in the system is also irreversible process, and that process takes place by compression, and here compression takes place, and here also PV type of work done takes place on the system by the surrounding, then here also irreversible process takes place in the system, and PV type work done takes place in the system by compression. That means here that is the difference in the reversible process and irreversible process. Here reversible process takes place very, very slowly, but irreversible process takes place very fast, as well as reversible process takes place in many steps, in infinite steps, and here irreversible process takes place in only one step. Here in reversible process the mechanical equilibrium is attained at every steps takes place in this process, but here in irreversible process mechanical equilibrium is attained at the last of that process. Here in reversible process, work done takes place by the system, or work done takes place in this process is W max. Here the work done takes place in this process, that is irreversible process, is PV type of work done. Then there are work done takes place in the system, whether it is by expansion or it is by compression. That is about the reversible process and irreversible process, as well as we will discuss about the sign conventions which we have to use during solving the numerical examples, which is based on that PV type work done as well as maximum work done. See here, if there are n moles of gas enclosed in a cylinder, and that cylinder which is fitted with movable piston, that is weightless and frictionless. That means here that piston moves upward or downward freely without any friction. Then see here, there is a system in which driving force which is given by the system, that is denoted by P. That means P is a driving force which is given by the system, and here the opposing force, that is external force or pressure which is given by the surrounding on the system. And here when work done takes place in the system, that is whether it is by expansion or it is by compression, then we can use the sign conventions for solving the numerical examples as well as during determination of that is work done. Then we will discuss about the sign conventions takes place during any process. Here plus, that is heat energy, is considered as a positive, that is plus Q. That means here heat energy absorbed by the system, that means here heat exchange takes place from surrounding to system. And here if the heat evolved by the system to the surrounding, that means heat exchange takes place from system to surrounding, then it is considered as a negative heat energy, that is heat evolved by the system, And here see here when heat is absorbed by the system, and here when work done takes place by the system, see here W, work done takes place by the system, then here when work done takes place by the system, then expansion takes place. Work done takes place by expansion, and whenever expansion takes place, here work done is negative. And when work done takes place on the system, and when work done takes place on the system, then compression takes place here, and therefore here work done which is obtained here is a positive. It is considered as a positive. Then see here we can use those sign conventions during solving numerical examples, which is based on those concepts. One more concept all of you studied about that is the PV type work done. Derivation for PV type work done. PV type work done which takes place in irreversible process. Irreversible and isothermal process. Isothermal process. That means here difference in the driving force and opposing force is here greater, that is of delta P, and that means when difference between those two forces is greater, then PV type of work done takes place in irreversible and isothermal process. And all of you studied about that derivation of PV type work done, and therefore we can obtain the expression for PV type work done, that is W is equals to minus PEX into delta V. That is the mathematical expression which is obtained for PV type work done. And here when P is greater than PEX, but here, and that means here work done takes place by the system by expansion. And here if the PV type work done, if it is takes place in irreversible and isothermal process, but if here opposing force is greater than driving force, then here work done takes place, that is positive. Therefore here PEX into delta V, that is the mathematical expression of PV type work done when work done takes place on the system by compression. That is about the PV type work done which is takes place in irreversible and isothermal process. One more thing I am going to discuss with you, that is the examples of PV type work done. Then see here one of the example, that is decomposition of H2O2. Here H2O2 which is in liquid state, it decomposed to gives water molecule which is in liquid state and oxygen which is in gaseous state. In this process here volume of system, that is increases, volume of system increases because in this process heat that is evolved by the system, or heat transfer takes place by the system. That means here system loses energy. System loses heat energy, and here no heat energy again transferred to system. That means heat energy cannot be transferred again, or it cannot be reversed into the system. Therefore here the loss of heat energy which carried out the work done takes place in the system because of here expansion, and therefore here the amount of work done takes place by expansion, that is work done takes place by the system, work done takes place by the system is equals to the loss of heat energy by the system, and here no any heat energy again transferred to the system, therefore here the process takes place here in one step, and therefore here the process which is takes place by irreversible, and that process which is takes place here is a irreversible process, and therefore here PV type of work done, PV type of work done takes place by expansion, because here volume increases, volume of the system increases because heat evolved by the system and no any heat energy again transferred to the system, therefore here work done takes place, that is by expansion, and that work done takes place by the system is of W is equals to minus Px into delta V. One more example I am going to discuss with you, that is ammonia gas chemically combined with hydrochloride gas to give solid ammonium chloride. That means see here the gaseous reactant molecules is converted into solid product, that is ammonium chloride, therefore here volume of system decreases, and here work done takes place on the system, that means here by compression, that means work done takes place by on the system and work done takes place by compression, because here the volume of the system decreases and here heat energy is absorbed by the system, and here work done takes place in one step, and that means here irreversible process takes place in the system, irreversible process takes place in the system, and therefore it is said that here PV type work done takes place in the system in this process is by compression, that is the one more example of PV type work done. Then in the next video I am going to discuss about the free expansion as well as derivation for the maximum work done, and that maximum work done takes place in reversible and isothermal process. Thank you.